TAAT is part of the major project in, it's a really, I can call it a flagship project in African Development Bank, which looks at some of the technologies which have been developed by various research organizations and mainly the Sindi centers, and which are ready for deployment for upscaling. But at the moment they are not being upscaled because there wasn't a mechanism. So TAAT is that mechanism which hopes to take some of these well-proven technologies to the high level to make sure that Africa can feed itself and ensure that it is also an exporter of the agricultural commodity. OFSP, that is actually, OFSP means orange fresh sweet potato. It is one of the key products in the TAAT project because it handles several things. One, it is very important at the moment because in Africa we have a major problem of the vitamin A deficiency. And vitamin A is so important that if children under 5, that means children from the time from zero conception to the time they are 5 years, they don't have enough vitamin A, it means that they cannot develop their brain development, their cognitive development is not good. Also, their immunity does not develop well. So Africa then, if it is not able to feed their children at that level, it means then they will spend a lot of money in healthcare. In the future, because they have children who have low immunity. It also means that all the money we can spend on education then is useless, because if we have children who grew up with low cognitive development, then however much money we spend on them later on, it will not help. Then on the other part, it's also very important when it comes to the food security, because orange fresh sweet potato matures in around 3 to 4 months depending on where you are. Whereas the normal other crops normally will mature on longer time than that. So that means it covers what we call the hunger period. So it's very important for food security for Africa. But also more so, sweet potato is actually a cash crop in Africa. It should be a cash crop in Africa. Because in countries like Asia or in countries like the US, where it is mainly grown, it's not only grown for nutrition, but it has become now a very important cash crop. Like in the US, orange fresh sweet potato is a superfood. So everybody now is moving away from eating other things to eating orange fresh sweet potato because it's for their health. In Asia, if you eat any spaghetti, if you eat most of the bakery things, they are based on sweet potato. So it has a huge capacity to drive the value chains and to drive industrialization in Africa. The future of agriculture in Africa is very bright, but it's with a caveat. It is only bright if we have initiatives like this one, like TAAT, which has been done by the African Development Bank. But it also needs to be, the African countries need to understand that they can never have development. That means they will never feed their population unless we have a major investment into the agricultural sector and listening to the scientists and looking at some of the technologies which have been developed in Africa and elsewhere, and then implementing them in their own policies and moving forward in their own agriculture. Because if you go to countries which have really done that, and we have examples. One example is Egypt. Egypt spends quite a huge amount of money. If you look at the number of the scientists in Egypt, more than the number of the scientists working in agriculture, in our research system, are more than the total African scientists combined. If you look at the same thing in Ethiopia, it is the same thing. They have put a lot of investment in agriculture, and then the agricultural productivity has gone up, and now it's a major exporter. In Egypt, they are leading in some of the highest productivity in some of the crops like wheat, some of the crops like rice, even now in countries like East Africa, which are supposed to be growing potato, even countries in West Africa which are supposed to be growing potato as a crop, are importing that potato from Egypt. Egypt is a desert. How can a desert be feeding part of West Africa and part of East Africa? It's because we have invested so much on the agriculture. And that is a point we also need to know, that the African countries need to put their money where their mouth is.